What career has less job security than being a Twitter employee these days? Obviously, the answer is being a Russian general. No, seriously, the average Twitter employee stays at Twitter for a few months. And if they're fired, they get several months of pay. A Russian general, on the other hand, only lasts a few weeks. Either they fall into a ditch in Kherson, or they enjoy early retirement in a nice windowless room where accidentally they literally get fired at by FSB. Accidentally, of course. Hi guys, I'm Maria, and in this video I'm going to talk about the new head of the Russian military, Valeriy Gerasimov, and what his appointment means. Is he any good? Can he change the course of Russia's disastrous war? Will he stop bombing civilians? If you don't want to watch the rest of the video, I will just give you the answer. No, probably not, to all of those questions. I'm sure many of you are already aware that Gerasimov replaced Sergey Surovikin, who held this position for the incredibly long time of 3 whole months. Sergey should avoid drinking tea or walking near stairs that he might fall down. Russia's Ministry of Defense has called this rotation an increase in the level of leadership of the special operation. They said that the new assignments are related to expanding the scale of the tasks to be solved and the need to organize closer cooperation between the various branches of the military. In other words, Russia is fucked, Russia knows it's fucked, and this is Russia pretending to Russia that everything is fine and Russia is not fucked. But Russia is fucked. I enjoy saying that, don't you? Gerasimov has experience of the war in Ukraine. Not only was they heavily involved in the planning of the so-called special military operation, also known as Russia's 3 Days War, that started on February 24th in 2022, but he was also heavily involved in the annexation and occupation of Crimea in 2014. He is often also called the main organizer of the war in the east of Ukraine, which started in the same year. During the annexation of Crimea and Russia's invasion of Donbass in 2014, Gerasimov became widely known in the West as the author of the new Russian concept of hybrid warfare and so-called doctrine of Gerasimov. In the article The Value of Science in Prediction, Valeriy Gerasimov developed the idea of a hybrid war. In his opinion, asymmetrical actions which makes it possible to eliminate the advantage of the enemy in the military struggle have become widespread. These include the use of special operation forces and internal opposition to create a permanent front of the entire territory of the opposing state and mastering informational warfare. The forms and means of the so-called informational influence should be constantly improved, and informational confrontation should open wide asymmetric opportunities for reducing the combat potential of the enemy. So there you have it. Gerasimov literally wrote an article about how he would use the informational space to his advantage. And yet, Vatniks still fall for it, repeatedly. The reward advancement of Russian soldiers from Kiev, Chernihiv and Sumy regions, and numerous other tactical failures, hit Gerasimov's authority hard. Analysts and mass media have been writing about the growing cracks between the Russian army, which is under the control of Russia's Ministry of Defense, and the forces of the Chechen warlord Kadyrov and Prigozhin, the founder of Russia's notorious mercenary group Wagner. Kadyrov and Prigozhin pushed for the promotion of their man, General Sergey Surovikin, who was seen as a competitor to Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. You may have noticed that for several months now, Kadyrov and Prigozhin have been openly criticizing the Ministry of Defense, and their criticism have grown louder after each of Russia's defeats on the battlefield. Since the beginning of Russia's war in Ukraine, Kadyrov was promoted from Major General to Colonel General, for what we don't really know. And Prigozhin was allowed to openly recruit convicts and throw tens of thousands of them into battle. He was even given the authority to pardon those convicted of serious violent crimes if they complete 6 months of fighting with Wagner. Previously, only the president had this right. In recent months, Prigozhin began to actively make statements on political and military topics. Of course, rumors about his ambitions started to spread, that he saw himself as Putin's successor. Of course, this did not go unnoticed by Putin and his inner circle. So, given Russia's performance over the last several months, shouldn't they not change horses in midstream? Official comments on reshuffling personnel are usually unclear, but we can read between the lines. The replacement of a commander indicates systemic problems in the Russian army and the power that be recognized the commander's inability to achieve the desired goals. According to Institute of Study of War, the appointment of Gerasimov as the commander of the united group of Russian troops is intended not only to improve command and control in the event of a possible offensive by the Russian Federation in 2022, but also to lower the authority of Prigozhin and Wagner. American war experts note that Gerasimov, who approved and did not reject Russia's catastrophic military plan in February 2022, is unlikely to start resisting Putin, who has not changed his goals regarding Ukraine. But Gerasimov is unlikely to be able to quickly revive and reform the army of the Russian Federation, which is disorganized, demoralized, and suffer constant failures. I could go on. Basically, this means is that Putin knows Gerasimov is his bitch and he poses no threat to him, and Putin is clearly worried about staying in power first and achieving his goals in Ukraine second. So according to the Institute of Study of War, Gerasimov's appointment and overhauling the Russian military command apparently is because they want to show the Kremlin's authority to the traditional power structure of Russia's Ministry of Defense, demonstrate readiness to wage a protracted war in Ukraine, and resume offensive operations, improve Russian command and control for a decisive military effort in 2023, and strengthens the position of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation in the conflict with the so-called militarists and non-system security forces, in particular Wagner and Prigozhin. The most interesting thing is that Gerasimov replaced Surovikin just after Prigozhin reported on the capture of Soledar, which the Russian Ministry of Defense did not confirm, stating that the fighting was ongoing, but the Russian military was about to take. They did not mention Wagner at all. Experts point out that this once again shows the great competition between the Wagnerites and the Russian regular army. As the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Oleksiy Danilov, noted, that the appointment of Gerasimov indicates that Putin is raising the stakes, and therefore the next 2-3 months will be decisive in the war. According to the Secretary of National Security Council, by February 24, 2023, the Russians will try to show their population some results after a year of waging a major war. You need to remember Russia's playbook: escalate to de-escalate. And as the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has noted, every Russian general must receive at least one opportunity to fail in Ukraine. Some, like Gerasimov, may be lucky enough to fail twice. So whatever the internal issues Russia forces, Gerasimov has been tasked with doing something big to ensure not only his own future, but also that of Putin and his inner circle. Will Gerasimov be successful? Personally, I don't think so. Ukraine is better armed, better equipped and experienced, and Russia is running out of allies. They have lost large part of their professional army. They no longer have infinite supplies of weapons from what we are seeing now. And in the informational space, which is part of Gerasimov doctrine, Russia is losing too, as support from Ukraine's partners keep growing. Let's see what happens, but whatever it is, Ukraine is ready. What do you guys think? What Gerasimov's appointment mean? Is he doomed to failure? Okay guys, that's it for the video. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel so I can keep making videos for you. Slava Ukraini! And strengths and positions.